right, welcome back to another episode of the Ideas Exchange podcast presented by InXpress. I am your host, Paul Castleberry. This is a podcast where we're talking about marketing, tech, being an entrepreneur, franchising, being a franchisee or franchisor, anything you can throw in between all of that kind of stuff. We talk about that here on this podcast. And my guest today is Mr. Ian Morris, all the way from the UK. Ian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Great to have you on here. And for those that are listening, Ian works with or he owns the company, if I got that correct, Threerooms. You want to tell us a little bit more about that and yourself and just give us the background there?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So I've been in marketing, design, branding my whole career, long career now. And yeah, I love the topic. And I set up an agency like 18 years ago now. And we provide branding services to, say, small and medium-sized companies. Basically, we offer strategy and design to help them shine, help them connect with their audiences and win their hearts and minds. So that's my passion and my job, which is brilliant.
You have perfected that elevator pitch over the past 18 years.
Thank you very much. I'm in the business, I do try.
Very, very well done. And I'm very excited to talk about this subject with you today because, like you said, you're a branding guru. I love branding. I love talking about it anytime you get the chance. And the question that you and I or the topic you and I landed on when we were doing our discovery call was the value of spending money on developing your brand and investing into it. That's the broad overview question, right? So maybe we can just start there and go down that rabbit hole and see where it takes us. What's your first initial thoughts on that topic there?
Well, when we talked about this before, I kind of left the sort of session just thinking, actually, aren't brands amazing? What interesting things they are. And I think it's worth talking about that first briefly, just like how powerful they are and how sort of vague they are in many ways to, the sort of science behind it, the psychology behind it. But I think what really excites me about brand is how it is psychological, and it has sort of it mirrors a lot of human behavior. And, brands have values, they have a vision, they have a purpose, they have a personality. And, whether the majority of people think about them like that, it is true. And branding in many ways is all about managing those things to really put out the right impression, the right image of a business to connect with audiences and kind of win them over. So I think I started with that in my mind, just like, wow, isn't it interesting how powerful they are? And it really leads into why they should, it should be an investment for a business. And because if you don't, what happens? So you kind of lose connection with customers. You don't kind of represent the organization in its truest form. You don't convey the messages you want to convey in the shortest possible time to get people to do things, to buy things, to kind of download things, to be involved. So yeah, it's got great power and it really earns that commitment and investment from anybody, really.
Yeah, I love looking at it as like a living, breathing entity, and we really got to treat it that way. When I talk to most people about this topic, they always kind of go back to this one question of, all right, well, if I spend all this time and this money on developing my brand and focusing on it, what's going to be my return on that? And that's one of those questions you and I were tossing around. It's like, man, that's hard to measure, I think. But what's your thoughts there?
It is notoriously hard to measure. It's one of those where, there are sort of, I don't know, anecdotal, sort of evidential stories about this stuff. And there's things like that. And, reportedly Apple's brand, just the brand alone, is worth billions of dollars and things like that. So I think there's a couple of ways of looking at this. So how do you measure it? And also, what's the cost of not doing anything, right? So if you don't do anything, let's say you don't build a connection with an audience. You don't look like they don't fit with your organization. They don't feel like they can be part of your tribe. It doesn't reflect them. It doesn't feel fresh and modern and capture current thinking. All these things, then, well, guess what? The competitors they'll connect with that customer. They'll feel at home there. They'll be interested and be, sort of get involved. So you'll miss out. So that's the cost.
Yeah.
And really, I guess, if you talk about ROI, we know we make no promises when we do this work. We explain why it's of value. We show evidence of how we've transformed organizations, the way they talk, the messages they put out there, and their look and feel. But there are ways of measuring. So let's get the good news out there. So you can, for large brands, they'll run like ongoing marketing research activity to understand the perception of their brand in the marketplace compared to others. They'll run sort of surveys, and they can do some digital analytics around this stuff. But it's really, really time consuming, and it's really, really expensive, and it's an ongoing job. So for most businesses, and many that we work with, sort of small and medium-sized businesses, it's just not feasible. It's not a viable way to track, brand tracker, they call it. So to track the development and growth of a brand. So we like to think of other metrics and recommend other metrics. How you could have sales growth. So let's say your organization, you want to grow sales, and brand is one of the strings you'll pull to make that happen. But it's a tricky one, because what if you land 2 big deals that month, and actually that skews that data, or the economy is falling or rising, and that kind of affects the prosperity in the marketplace just at the time you rebrand. So it's a tricky one to measure. So maybe that's just one metric. But other metrics are let's say conversion rate. So if you've got some, proposals, or you kind of have that type of business, then how quickly are you converting those customers, and what's the percentage of conversions? Because that's really, close relationship with your brand and message and image. It does affect that type of thing. So lead generation, conversion rates. But I think one that's sort of often overlooked and extremely important is the employee engagement side of it. So we've got the sort of external facing brand, which is converting customers and getting sales in, but actually employees are so important to businesses that we would need to create a great place for them to work, and for them to believe in something. So that's actually the purpose of an organization, what the values of an organization, what they actually stand for. So communicating that and getting that right really makes a difference. So you can measure the employee engagement, you can measure the number of applicants you might have for a job, for example, just to see how that brand is being recognized and perceived in the marketplace. So a couple of different metrics, and we recommend taking a combination of all of those and monitoring them and digesting them. It's not going to be a quick win. So there's a few things to consider there, I think.
Yeah, very well said. And so the other aspect of this is when people talk about building their brand, they're always looking at cost, right? What's it going to cost me at the end of the day? So what do you say to those business owners that are looking at this as the expense, and how much time and how much money they need to spend on building this brand? What's your answer to
them? It's a worthwhile investment is my sort of first thought. And actually, I give them case studies of examples of organizations we've worked with in terms of rebranding them, and just actually showcase, look at the transformation. It is a transformational exercise, and it's a hard one to put numbers and physical evidence around. But I was talking about employee engagement. Loads of times we launch a brand, and to the staff, and actually the feedback is, wow, we're so excited to take this forward. We've kind of, it reinvigorates everybody and actually brings them all together at that point in time. So everyone knows the story, everyone knows what to say. So I guess it's a lot of anecdotal stuff, but actually it does work. And it's easier to look at what happens if you don't. I think you have to stay up to date. You have to stay ahead of the curve, or in kind of competing with customers, and they will be doing the same. So I guess that's the preventative measure side of things. But the gains can be great, real, bringing people together and connecting with customers.
Yeah, I know for our company, your company has been helping us refresh our brand, and you've helped us rebrand in the past. And anytime I see it, it's exciting. And it like you said, it really gets me and the marketing team and the others very excited when we see that. So I definitely can attest to that.
And you know what's overlooked, Paul, is it should be fun, right? I think a lot of it, when you talk about business and obviously sales generation, ROI, the stability of the business, it's critical stuff. But actually the that the project and process of rebranding can be really enjoyable. It can be really engaging for everyone across the business. Bring people into it, hear what they've got to say. You can engage customers and get some feedback things you've never heard before. Yeah, it can be a really, really enjoyable process as well as the actual outcome itself. So
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. We kind of already touched on this, but I was hoping we might be able to explore a little bit further. Is why is investing in the brand so important? And like I said, we touched on it, but I think maybe we can
yeah,
unpack a little bit more there. Your thoughts?
yeah. Well, I think like it's worth bearing in mind like where the scope of what a brand really is. Let's go with that. So, a brand is a logo, and that's a bit of a given, and it's almost, yeah, so what, but that's the
Mhm.
most recognizable part of any brand. But actually, it's also every single touch point your business has. So it's the experience. It's what people take away as a memory of interacting with your business or your product or your service. So it's the way the app feels. It's the colors that you use on your website. It's the imagery that reflects, the vibrant people who kind of feel right for me. So it has to be considered as a holistic piece of work. It's something that you want to really improve, like your business across the board. So all of those touch points. It can be even the way you answer the phone. So
Mm.
you could answer it robotically, but actually we defined a brand here that's more human. It's more vibrant. It's more energetic, right? So the way we answer the phone is this. So it changes the way call centers work. It changes the technology that you use inside those call centers. Maybe we start using WhatsApp because it's more conversational. We don't
Mm.
respond with emails because it's too formal, whatever it is. So I think it might be just a different angle, and maybe I'm not answering your question properly, Paul, but it's just, I think that's another angle of the benefit, the opportunity of investing time and money in a brand is actually how significant a difference it can make to a whole organization or everyone who works in it, and all of the different touch points that a customer interacts with.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we had Jen on a previous episode who
Yeah,
works for you, works for Three Rooms, and we were kind of talking about this, that the brand is more than just a color and a pretty logo and fonts and all that kind of stuff. There's this intangible part of the brand that brings value to it, and I think that's what we're touching on here. Is as you start to uncover these things, that you identify who you are, what you are all about, and your values, and bringing that into the company culture. And you kind of touched on it there, talking
yeah.
about getting on call centers and figuring out the way they talk. Uh, what are your thoughts on that as far as business owners looking at it from that aspect?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it comes back to maybe human behavior and psychology, right? So, like a brand that you love, it just feels good, and most people don't know why. And I suppose what we do
Mm.
is try and get to the point of why that is. Well, why is it? Well, it feels good because it's so easy to use. It feels good because it costs less. Sometimes like pricing is a part of marketing and part of that conversation, but um, of course, Apple, compared to any other technology manufacturer, has got market domination, and a lot of that is down to how the products feel, how the service feels, how easy it is to do X, Y, Z, how the software integrates seamlessly, all these things, how slick the packaging is. The unboxing of any Apple product. I'm an advocate. I'm just one of the sheep, right? But I
You and me
actually,
both. You and me both.
yeah,
I ordered a new MacBook like a week and a half ago, and I'm just itching to open the package.
yeah,
Not the
that
computer, not getting the
unboxing.
computer, just the unboxing of it.
But like, let's say we set that like if we worked on that product, that brand, we'd say, well, everything about this brand is about quality. It's about making your work life easier. It's about wowing and impressing and feeling like the best product you can buy in this space. So
Hmm.
what does that mean? Well, that means we need to make the packaging a delight. It's not just a functional in design decision or pricing decision. It's an investment. So, like Apple's packaging is obviously the cost is bundled in with the money you pay and I pay, but actually the segment of that money that goes into that price is highly considered so that that person from the very second it arrives starts to have an amazing experience. And that's
Mm.
just one area, right? But it's another
Mm.
good example. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like it's like I like to think of it as a tribal thing. So again, back
Yeah.
to human psychology. It's commonly said, but do I want to join this tribe for a short time? Like I might be trying a new deodorant. So, I'll just jump in and I'll be part of this gang. Does it feel right for me? Does it serve my needs? Do I feel part of this tribe? Or am I a long-term member like me with Apple or Adidas? Wear Adidas, and for some reason that's all I ever buy, right?
Yeah.
And you dig into it, it's just maybe more of a sort of retro thing. I kind of carry strong values, lots of memories associated with those products. So I'm a lifetime tribal member of those two brands for whatever reason. But yeah, it's a powerful thing to get right. And
Yeah.
it's in a lot of ways it's small steps and lots of iterative steps, but you've got to get the core really clear. So the strategy, the purpose, why you exist, what you do for customers, the benefit to the end user of what you're about, how you want to be perceived, and personality. And that's the strategic side. I know we talked about design, colors, logos, all that adds to that impression. But I mean, I suppose I'm more in the strategy world. I'm a designer by trade, but strategy is the powerful part, I think. So get that right, and it makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, believe it or not, we're coming up on the end of our time, and I wanted to leave some space here at the end to just kind of leave it open-ended to you to throw any other additional thoughts or ideas you want to toss behind this topic that we're discussing.
Well, I think it can be. I think one thing I've learned over the years is actually not everybody rebrands that often, and it can be quite a daunting task. And these questions, like, well, what's the ROI, or how much will it cost, or what's the benefit of doing it? Really, it can be unsettling, but
Hmm.
it isn't that challenging. I know that it kind of seems mystique, like there's a bit of mystique and sort of smoke and mirrors even behind it. But the truth is that branding and caring and investing in your branding works. It's, proven with huge brands with huge values. So let's extract that down to a level that your business might be at, and actually think, well, what are the principles and methodologies that we need to implement here? And it's a case of listening, understanding, like the fabric of that business, the culture of that business, and just actually simplifying it so that everyone understands, and then communicate that out there. So through look and feel, messaging, that's the way you pick up the phone, the little thank you message when you filled a form in, little things like that, incrementally build up to a single image, a single feel of a brand that you can fall in love with. So yeah, it's an enjoyable process. And it's straightforward. So I always say, with our customers, we'll guide you through, but it'll be fun. So
Yeah, well said. You can tell, you can hear the passion in your voice. I gotta
thank you.
gotta ask the last question. I've heard a rumor that there's a cool story behind the name Three Rooms. Can you tell us about that?
That's a good one. Okay, has Jenny been talking to you? So yeah, yeah, it goes back so far now. I mean, you can see if anyone's actually watching this podcast, yes, I've got grey hair. I've been around, so, but back a long time ago, myself and two others, we were kind of stuck in our jobs or looking for something to, kind of a way to do something different. And we were like, well, let's set up our own agency. Let's do this, let's do it our way. And so, yeah, we were kind of we're going to be three freelancers. We probably hadn't got to grips with the shareholdings and all that complicated stuff. So we thought, well, let's work together, but we'll keep it separate, right? So what does that mean? Well, we'll all be in our bedrooms, right? We'll be in 3 different bedrooms, 3 rooms. So that's where the idea sparked from. And yeah, it's funny how, life's path changes, but the name stuck and it sounds pretty cool. And it represented our founding, sort of foundation story. So it still stands today.
There you go. Love it. Well, Ian, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your thoughts, your expertise. Really much, really appreciate it. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, an absolute delight. And as you can tell, I'll talk about this stuff anytime. I love it.
I
So
I know. When I talked to Jen, I was like, man, we could go for like 2 more hours, but
yeah, yeah.
we can't do it, right? Well, Ian, thanks again. Keep doing what you're doing, and we'll talk to you later.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Paul. Take care, mate.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Ideas Exchange podcast presented by InXpress. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to show us some love and support, please share it out with others on social media or leave us a rating and review. If you want to know more about what InXpress is, visit inxpress.com to find out what they do and how they can help you and your business. That's InXpress.com. Thank you so much, and we will catch you in the next episode.